What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab show. What a career as a player for Juwan Howard. Now he is a coach for Michigan University. And look, Juwan Howard, he was part of the Fab Five at Michigan back in the early 90s. They ran deep in the tournament, but now he's a head coach. And we saw recently what happened with the altercation when they played against Wisconsin. And Wisconsin was really up the whole game. They won the game easily. And I think really what set off Coach Juwan Howard was, Wisconsin calling timeouts in the late game, in the second half. And I thought, why is Wisconsin calling timeouts? You know what I mean? That didn't make sense, but there's no excuse for Coach Juwan Howard now to slap an assistant coach for Wisconsin. I don't know what was said, what was happening down there, but look, as a head coach, you had to keep your composure. Because if you act like that, you're kind of telling your players, hey, you guys can lose your mind and start a fight. Whenever you want to do, we can have a tag, whatever the case may be. But as a coach, you cannot do that. And Coach Juwan Howard, I am a little bit surprised, but, looking at his career, am I surprised that he does kind of have a, one of them's tempers? No, absolutely not. I'm not surprised whatsoever because where he really started, he started at Michigan with the Fab Five. Played with Chris Webber, those guys, Jalen Rose. I mean, they were great. Made it to the final game, but they just didn't win it, right? But for Juwan Howard as a player, he was a heck of a player. He was drafted in the first round, number 5th overall in 1994 by the Washington Bullets. Now they're known as the Washington Wizards. But, he's a 2-time NBA champion. Yes, he did win in the last couple years of his career with the Miami Heat, with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade in 2012 and 2013. Then he retired. I don't blame him. He got 2 rings with one of the best basketball players of all time, LeBron James. And for Howard, he was thinking, you know what, I'm done. I've been in the league over a decade now. I put my time in way over a decade, since 94 to 2013. I mean, what a career. What a career as a player. Amazing to me. But now, he, as a player, he scored over 16,000 points, over 7,000 rebounds, 7,428 rebounds to be exact. 16,159 points scored. He was a big man. He was a presence. He was really a good player. He wasn't the star player of the team, but he could get the job done. He can get rebounds and get boards for you and score some points for you as well. But as a head coach, he's a good coach. I would really consider him a good coach. Last year in 2021, Michigan was the number 1 seed. And this was the first time in NCAA history to enter the tournament as a number 1 seed as both a player and a coach. You guys remember back in the early 90s, the Fab Five, like I said, they were the number 1 seed. Now as a coach, he's the number 1 seed last year. They lost to UCLA in the lead 8, which was a great game, only lost by 2 and went down to the wire. But for Coach Juwan Howard to lose his mind like this, suspended 5 games, it's one of the things where it's like, I didn't really believe it when I saw it, when I was watching it live. I was like, no way. But, when Juwan Howard was just, like, pointing at the guy, like, I don't know what was said, but he did slap the assistant coach. He slapped him right in the face. Now, was it a punch thrown? No, it wasn't a punch. It was open hand. He definitely just slapped him. It was kind of one of those, the slaps where you just like, tell your son or daughter, like, man, get up. Obey me. Listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Like just, discipline. Try to teach discipline to people, and I think Coach Juwan Howard was kind of like that to the Wisconsin assistant. Like, man, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, how dare you say, whatever was said, I don't know, but there's no excuse for Coach Juwan Howard to lose his mind. Now, what's next for Michigan as he suspended 5 games? Phil Martelli, he's been a head coach 24 years at St. Joseph's. He'll be a, interim head coach right now for Michigan. He's been to 7 NCAA tournaments and 6 NIT tournaments. So, for Phil, I'm not worried about Michigan right now. They're projected right now, Michigan to squeak into the NCAA tournament this year. They're the bottom 5 to squeak in. And I do think Michigan can do that. But, for Coach Howard, he's got to, do some reflecting and say, man, I did mess up. No matter what was said, the the tensions were high, all this stuff. At the end of the day, Coach Juwan Howard cannot do this. You cannot do this as a coach. This is kind of inviting the players to say, you know what? We can lose our minds. We can do what we want. You know, like it's just a free for all, but you cannot do that. And so to me, for Juwan Howard, it was kind of like, wow, dude. You know, he was a former player, a great player, a champion, 2-time NBA champion, first overall pick, or excuse me, first round, 5th overall pick in the NBA draft in 1994. So obviously he's experienced all this. He knows what it's like to control your emotions. You know, as a player, you know, as a coach, it's like, dude, wow. You know, it's amazing. I mean, the competitive spirit is there for sure. I just think for Michigan, you know, you guys have to make the tournament. Like I said, they're the bottom 5 right now, and I think they will. You know, and it's amazing to me. It really is. And Juwan Howard, this is his first coaching obstacle right here. He was the Miami assistant coach, and after they won the title with Miami in 2013, he became the assistant coach that season after, all the way to 2019. And then he became Michigan's head coach in 2019. Then he signed a 5-year contract with Michigan. So, you know, wasn't one of them things where it's like, oh, they're going to fire Juwan Howard? No, absolutely not, dude. Juwan Howard's been a Michigan Wolverine his whole life, dude. You know, he's put in a lot of time and effort into Michigan. So, a lot of people were saying, oh, he could be fired. No, you know, they're going to keep him. I just think, you know, for a player's perspective here, me being a former basketball player, it's like, dude, like, you know, to have my coach go out like that, you know, and slap somebody else, it's kind of wanting me to fight as well. You know, like, you know, if somebody steps over me or, you know, whatever the case is, says something to me, all right, well, I'm entitled to fight now. My coach can throw a slap. I can throw a slap, right? You know, but I don't like that thinking. I think as a player, you got to realize, hey, my coach made a mistake. You know, we're all human. We all make mistakes. And, you know, let's just rebound from it. Let's learn from this mistake. And let's move forward. Michigan's got to, you know, the last 5 games of this season right now, they're 5 teams that will make the NCAA tournament. So, you know, it's definitely going to be tough. It's never easy. Life isn't easy. But I just think for Michigan right now, you know, with Phil, you know, over 24 years head coach, he knows what he's doing. So I'm not really worried about Michigan. I'm just thinking for Coach Juwan Howard, how are you guys going to get ready for, you know, the Big Ten championship, you know, going into the NCAA tournament next month? How are you guys going to prepare for that? You know, like that, this is huge. You know, this is huge. But I just think for Juwan Howard, man, it is one of the things where it's like, you know, it's crazy. It really is. But is it the first time I ever seen coaches fight? No. I remember back when I played football back in like elementary, middle school, I had my head coach get in an altercation with, you know, one of the players' dads. You know, and they just started arguing. And yes, fists were thrown. You know, so it does. It boils, and I think a lot of it has to do with anger and hatred just boiling over the years. And it just adds up to that one moment where you just lose control. And that's what Coach Juwan Howard did. He lost control a little bit. You know, and that's what I knew. I was like, wow, you know, I don't know what's going on. But when Juwan Howard was pointing his finger, it was one of the things where it's like, oh, shit, like, is he for real about to, you know, throw a punch? You know, but obviously it wasn't. You know, did they do it right? Did the NCAA do Juwan Howard right by suspending 5 games? I think so. You know, I think, you know, if any other case, if he would have threw a punch, I think he would be suspended the rest of the season, dude, into the NCAA tournament. I think what really saved Coach Juwan Howard was, you know, just a slap. It wasn't a fist. It wasn't intention to hurt somebody. It was more of an intention like, back up. You know, we're coming for you. You know, if we see you guys in the Big Ten Championship, if we see you guys in the NCAA tournament, we're going to remember this game, okay? So I think that's kind of how Juwan Howard was really just going about it, was like, hey, you guys better remember this, okay? And I think, you know, moving forward for Michigan, it's like, let's use this tool to, like, build our confidence up, okay? Obviously, we can't do those type of things. And me being a former basketball player, I actually had an altercation with an assistant coach. Yes, an assistant coach. He was a former basketball player. He was great, you know, of where my hometown's at. And they actually won state. He won state back in, I believe it was 2000 or 2001. He won state at Muncie Southside. So he was a great player. But anyway, so I call a timeout, and I'm walking back, right? I'm walking back to my huddle, and, you know, the assistant coach is standing right there, you know, and I see him. I'm walking towards him, but he's not moving. So at that time, tensions were already up. You know, and we were up. We were winning by like 2 or 3 points in this game. It was a crazy game. Anyway, I kind of shoulder checked the coach. I shoulder checked him. Wasn't on purpose. Yes, absolutely, because he wouldn't move. And I knew he saw me coming, and he tried to play it off like, oh, I don't see Capstan coming at all. But I kind of gave him the shoulder check. And then the coach got up in my face, and then he started to push me. And that's when both the teams kind of just like split us up. And we're like, hey, you guys got to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like punches are going to be thrown, whatever the case is. But he pushed me. He put hands on me. I gave him a little shoulder check like, yo, to the assistant coach, like, hey, this is my area. You get out of here. Okay, we ended up winning this game, but it just goes to show you the competitive nature in people, not just myself, but also into coaches. Coaches, they put their life into this game. You have to understand that coaches are up earlier than the players. They're game planning. They're trying to build a strategy how to beat the other team. So obviously, tempers are going to flare up and do these type of things. And I just think for Michigan, for Coach Juwan Howard's sake, it's one of the things where it's like, all right, we got to rebound from this. The tournament is coming up. We got to make the tournament because last year we were number 1 seed. Now we're on the outside looking in this year in 2022 where it's like, oh, shoot. Like, we could be the bottom 10 teams to enter the NCAA tournament. They could be a 12, 13 seed. Not saying that's bad because any team that enters the NCAA tournament, you have a shot. You have a shot. And we see some huge upsets in the NCAA tournament. I mean, we can go back to George Mason back in 2006 when they upset UConn, dude. That was one of the biggest upsets I've ever seen, dude. Ever. Then we see Florida Gulf Coast upset Georgetown back in 2013. That was a huge upset. There's just so many great memories of the NCAA tournament, and for Michigan right now going in, it's like we gotta come back to this. They were in the NCAA championship game back, I believe, in 2013 or 14. That was a great team as well. They lost to Louisville in the championship game. Shout out to Trey Burke. I mean, he went off for them to even make the NCAA championship game was crazy. It was because of Trey Burke. Shout out to Trey Burke. But I just think for Michigan's sake right now, use this for fuel. You guys got to get ready for the tournament, and that's what you have to do. But for Coach Juwan Howard, it's like, dude, like, you cannot do this again. There's not another mistake like this. If this altercation happens again and tempers flare, do it outside, not on the court. You guys handle it like grown men, face to face, outside the locker. Said make it private. Do it like men do. Not on camera or not where everybody's watching, not where all the fans are there. You know what I'm saying? It seems cool, right? To just start a brawl. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how it was when I ran into the assistant coach when I was playing. It was kind of like, hey, I'm going to mark my territory here, and it's crazy, right? You know how dogs get really angry when you're on their territory. It's kind of the same thing with basketball a little bit. It's like, this is my territory. Do not come over here again. That's how it was. But I just think for Michigan, they will make the NCAA tournament this year. I do believe that. They just got to really put it together mentally. I think the talent's there for Michigan Wolverines this year. I do. I just think for Coach Juwan Howard, when he comes back, to rally his troops, and Michigan's got to get ready, baby. Hey, let's go. It's the Clown with Cab Show!